Now, you may have seen some of my videos criticising Heroes of Olympus, or have maybe just been tuning into my podcast, The Best Damn Camp, where I'm currently discussing The Lost Hero, and we'll be doing the rest of the Heroes of Olympus in the coming months/years. And I've always had a problem with Heroes of Olympus, and honestly I know quite a few fans that do. Mainly because as a sequel series, it didn't really live up to expectations. But there is one sequel series that I think went beyond the expectations given to it, and that is Trials of Apollo. So here is why Trials of Apollo is the better sequel series. Trials of Apollo takes place around 6 months after Blood of Olympus, and there are many things that I think Trials of Apollo does a lot better than the previous sequel series, but there are 4 in particular that I want to talk about here. Number 1, the answering of unanswered previous questions. Now, one of the biggest things that Trials of Apollo answers is, firstly, what happened to Apollo at the end of Blood of Olympus, as well as, the aftermath of what happened with the demigod near war between Camp Jupiter and Camp Half-Blood, but also the main thing, and this is something that's been going on and unanswered since Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Who was continuously financing the Titan War and the Giant War? And as we find out in Trials of Apollo, well, it's been the Roman emperors, probably the worst Roman emperors, who have managed to make themselves immortal based on the power and collective memory that mortals have of these 3/4 Roman emperors. And they're the ones who over millennia have been building up and saving finances and building a, I'm not going to say this word correctly, Trimvate, I'll put the correct word here, that has basically dominated the capitalist market of America and beyond, which has led to them having the ultimate power over their enemies. Through capitalism. Capitalism is the enemy. And while this isn't a question that necessarily is one of the biggest ones that is answered, it's one that even I myself kind of always wondered. Like, Luke mentioned financial backers, the Giants and Gaia and Medea even mentioned patrons and financial backers. It's something that's always kind of just been there, and even mortal mercenaries who've been brought in, who's been financing them. Like, immortal beings don't really think about finance to the same level as other beings would. But these Roman emperors have been, well, they've been emperors before. They know how to go about getting their way. So them doing this is something that I just think was absolutely brilliant. Money makes war and benefits those who want war. And that's what they've done. They've used money to get their way. And it's genius. Number 2, character development. Honestly, Apollo, or BICESTER Papadopoulos, as his name is in the series, has probably one of the best character arcs in the entire Riordanverse. He goes from a spoiled, bit of a dick, really, god who's become mortal at the start of this series, to being someone who is compassionate, understands loss, has grieved, has changed for the better, that even when he becomes a god by the end again, he feels everything that he experienced during his time as a mortal, and it's kind of scarred him in a way, but in a sense for the better. He's become a better person for it. We don't technically know how long it will last, because eventually memories like those can fade, but we see that he's a different person as a god now than what he was beforehand, which was an annoying poet. And honestly, not the best poet, which is interesting for a god of poetry. But Apollo as a character is one that kind of reminds me a bit of Korra in Legend of Korra. Lots of people hate on Korra because she was cocky, she was, she had an attitude, she knew she was the chosen one. And honestly, anyone who knows that they are a chosen one, who knows that they are powerful, definitely going to be that way because you have all the power. But she grows, she learns, she faces traumas, she faces hardships, just like Apollo, and she changes for the better, just like Apollo. And so many other characters as well. Meg, even Piper, Jason faces has a better character arc in Trials of Apollo than he does, well, he has a character in Trials of Apollo than he does in Heroes of Olympus. So many characters that we met previously who didn't really get much of a chance then in Heroes of Olympus are getting their chance now in Trials of Apollo. And I love it so much. It's so well done for so many of them. Number 3, it goes to a darker level than honestly even I expected. Heroes of Olympus for me was probably the most disappointing because the stakes were supposedly at their highest they could ever be, and yet nothing felt that our main characters never felt in danger to me. None of them felt like we were going to lose them at any point. Unlike in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, where we did see people lose their lives. But what was different about Trials of Apollo? We saw people facing parental abuse. We saw decapitations. Wait, no, is decapitation just for a head? We saw amputations in a sense. We saw physical abuse. We saw emotional abuse. We saw deaths of main characters. Something that I never thought you'd see in the Riordanverse, because they went above and beyond with making us feel crap. No one we love is safe right now, which is something we never had in Heroes of Olympus when it was meant to be at the highest level of stakes. Even Percy and Annabeth falling into Tartarus, devastating as it was, you didn't really feel the anxiety of their loss because, well, they were making their way to the doors of death. And then we have that whole scene of them in Tartarus as well. We see their struggles, but I personally, I don't know about anyone else, I never kind of felt worried for their safety because everyone would be fine. This was the fourth book. We had one more book left to go, and it just, I don't know, everyone had felt safe up until that 4th book. Nothing really kind of pushed beyond the boundaries. But Trials of Apollo, there were many moments where I wasn't sure if everyone was going to make it out okay. We were seeing trauma from the get-go with Apollo, with Meg, with so many characters, that you feel so many things for them, and it's something that I never expected to see, and it gripped me. It got me invested in these characters, it got me attached to these characters, but fearful for them at the same time, which is an incredible experience for a reader, and is something Heroes of Olympus didn't give us. And sometimes even Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Most of the people who died were characters we only briefly met before they die. We don't really get to know anyone before their death in the Olympian series. Trials of Apollo, we know these characters. We get attached to them and then we lose them. It's amazing and heartbreaking at the same time. And number 4, I feel like it didn't focus that much on character nostalgia, or nostalgia in general. Even though we had sort of cameos of Percy and other members of the Seven as well, it never felt like they were taking away the interest of the main 2 character stories of Apollo and Meg. Yeah, they featured, they were involved, yeah, we were attached to them, but unlike Heroes of Olympus, you know, we still knew whose story it was. We still knew who we were paying attention to. And, you know, we never lost sight of that. I always felt this in Heroes of Olympus, that by having Percy and Annabeth, and I've done a video on this, I'll card that here, by having them part of it, I always felt like we didn't really get to know the other members of the Seven. In Trials of Apollo, we actually get to see each of the 7 members, and Nico and Raina. We see their development more in Trials of Apollo, even though they're not huge features of that story, more so than we ever see them develop in Heroes of Olympus. And it's something I really appreciated seeing. I think that's what makes Trials of Apollo probably the best sequel series. We get development of characters that we didn't get in the previous series. We get probably one of the best character arcs I've ever seen in a middle grade series. Well, admittedly, I've not read many of them, but you know what I mean. We get something that goes beyond the level of what you could expect, with death, with grief, with traumas. And it's done in a really respectful way that I appreciate beyond the 9th degree. And we get answers to the questions that we've had kind of in the back of our minds since the start of the series, answered in this series. Trials of Apollo really stepped up to the plate of being a sequel series and went above and beyond what Heroes of Olympus tried to do, but barely even reached. I think that's why, for me, Trials of Apollo is not only the best sequel series, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than Percy Jackson and the Olympians, but it's definitely on par. But what do you guys think? What did you think of Trials of Apollo as a series? Did you enjoy it better as a sequel than Heroes of Olympus? Or basically, where does it lie on your list of your favourite part of the Riordanverse, or particularly the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles? Whatever the case, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. As always though, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I truly do appreciate it. In the description box down below, you'll find the links to all of my social media, my merchandise store and my Patreon, where if you want to support me, that is the place to do so. Can't support me financially? Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, drop a thumbs up, add a comment and share for the algorithm's sake, and I'll see you next time when I release a new Percy Jackson or whatever I want to video next Saturday. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.